the idea of you coming from America to here, settling in potentially in Gaza, kicking Palestinians out, a lot of people would see that as settler colonialism.
It's not really colonialism, it's a return. My grandparents were kicked out of Israel by Arabs who were trying to establish a Palestinian state, and they had to leave for their survival, and I'm just coming back and fulfilling their dream. That would be the first thing. The second thing is, I think that, and I know this is a minority view, I think colonialism gets a bad rap. Like, genocide is bad, but colonizing places that are genocidal and they have bad ideology, it's good to come in and correct their views.
What do you think should happen to the people who are already in Gaza?
So I think that there's a couple of possibilities. The one that I think is the most realistic is we got to ask other countries for help. I know that Spain was willing to take a couple of million. I know Russia said they would take a couple of thousand.
To a lot of people, that would sound like you're advocating for ethnic cleansing?
I don't think so, because Palestinian isn't an ethnicity, it's an ideology, and it's an ideology that says that they want Jews dead, and so we want them as far away from Jews as possible.
So these are settlers getting ready to go and live in Gaza. She sounds like an American Jewish woman, and she's saying we are coming back to live here. Our ancestors lived here thousands of years ago.
They're coming, they are happy to take a land of other peoples that are living here. They think they have no rights. They think they're not even an ethnic group. They think they are an ideology, which is very dangerous to say that. So I think, like, the whole understanding...
Well, is Palestinian an ethnicity?
What is it?
I would say it's a national identity.
National identity is not an ideology.
Yeah, well...
The idea of you...
But is it an ethnicity?
It's where you come from. Like, if I say I'm from Yemen, I am from Yemen. That's my hometown, my country, where I am from originally. So someone could say I'm Palestinian. And
you could be various ethnicities and still be Palestinian, right?
You can be from a different religion and be Palestinian. Like, I think the difference here that people might want to think or question is why the Israelis say I'm an Israeli. Or, do you know what I mean? Like, if they are an Arab, for example, why are they not saying I'm a Jordanian Jews?
Okay, so
I am a Yemeni Jew. I am a Yemen. Do you know what I mean? Like, why can't you address yourself as where you are exactly from, than going to a land and call it my hometown and say, okay, now I am Israeli, whether I am from Romania or from, Iraq, or from... Like, what is this all about?
So there was a group. Have you heard of the Black Panthers?
No.
From America?
No.
So in the 50s, 60s, 70s maybe, during the civil rights movement, around the time of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, there was the Black Panther movement, who were a liberation organisation who fought for equal rights for black people. They were a black empowerment, black struggle.
Okay, I think I remember now.
And there would have been what was that? We saw a film, I think, that
I think it was the
guy
Malcolm X, no?
Well, around the same time, different idea, not Muslim ideology, but a different black nationalist ideology. Anyway, Israel had their own version of that. The Black Panthers, Hebrew, Ha-Paterim Ha-Shorim, were an Israeli protest movement of second-generation Jewish immigrants from North Africa and the Middle Eastern countries. It was one of the first organizations in Israel with the mission of working for social justice for Sephardi and Mizrahi Jews. So these Jews that came from Arab countries, who were marginalized when they arrived in the new majority white European Jewish state, and drawing inspiration and borrowing the name from the American organization, it also sometimes referred as the Israeli Black Panthers. So the movement, founded in 1971 by young people in the Masara neighborhood, these people eventually some of them actually turned against the whole idea of the Israeli state and became advocates for Palestinian rights. The Black Panthers felt that the discrimination against Mizrahi Jews, Eastern Jews, could be seen in the different attitude of the Ashkenazi or European establishment. And after 1949, they went from Mizrahi, this is the area, went from being a wealthy Arab neighbourhood to a neglected area with a dangerous no man's land. After the 1967 war, the North African Jewish residents were displaced. So these Jews of an Arab background did begin to see themselves, as you're saying, yes, I'm Jewish, but I'm Iraqi, or I'm Moroccan, or I'm Algerian. That, I think, ideology has kind of died down now, and the majority of Mizrahi Jewish citizens in Israel have embraced the Israeli identity. But there was, for a time, this movement that was kind of fighting for their rights and seeing them as separate for Zionism.
They are an ideology, and they're called Palestinians ideology.
So these were the Black Panthers of Israel, who were fighting for the Jews of an Arab background. But as I say, I believe that down the line, these people actually sided with the Palestinians more than the
European
Israeli side. Yeah.
I mean, talking about just Netanyahu himself, where is he from?
Let's find out.
He's not an Arab. He's not.
He would be European. I'll show you in a moment.
Yeah.
If I can find him.
I mean, I heard that one of his parents is Polish, if I'm not mistaken.
Let's go for it. Benjamin. So originally he used to call himself Ben Natai. I've got videos of him calling himself Ben Natai, and then he later became Benjamin Netanyahu. A lot of the early Eastern European settlers, they would change their name to sound more Middle Eastern. So Netanyahu was born in 1949 in Tel Aviv. So he's born in Israel a year after it was created. His mother, Zila Segal, was born in the Ottoman Empire. She was born... So his mother was born in Jerusalem. They had been there for a few generations, and his father was born in Poland. So his father is a Polish Jew, and his mother would be a Palestinian Jew of a European background who'd maybe been there for a couple of generations. He's Ashkenazi, meaning European Jewish heritage, and there has never been a Prime Minister of Israel who is not European Ashkenazi origin.
Wow.
So you've got Ashkenazi European, Mizrahi Eastern Jews from Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, etc. As Iraqi. Sephardic would be the Jews in North Africa. Sephard meaning Spain, the ones that were expelled from Spain, where we saw where we were in Al-Andalus when the Muslims were expelled. The Jews were expelled at the same time, and these Jews went to live in Morocco and Tunisia, Algeria, etc. So every Israeli Prime Minister has always been from the European subgroup of the Jewish community. They've never had an Arab.
And you
Jew.
think that's because they are always backed up by America and...
Because the founders of Zionism were European Jews. Theodor Herzl, the founder of Zionism, I think was maybe Polish or Hungarian. He was a European Jew.
So that shows you that there is racism within them as well.
So look, here's Gilad Atzmon mentioning the history, and Gilad Atzmon describes himself as an ex-Israeli Jewish person born in Israel. He has denounced his Israeli identity, like the guy we met in Hounslow. Do you remember? There was a Jewish speaker who said, "I am an Israeli dissident." Gilad Atzmon saying Zionism was launched in Basel. We were there recently. In 1897. It was an Ashkenazi European project. So Ashkenazi means European Jew. But not many European Jews bought into the idea. In 1948, only 640,000 Jews lived in Palestine, most of them immigrants from Europe. So there were immigrants heading to Palestine from Europe. These European Jews had a dream to build a national home on another people's land. The dream was epic, but they needed many soldiers and many more cheap labourers. They found them in Arabia. So the Europeans that arrived there, they needed population, they needed workers. There wasn't enough Jewish people to have a Jewish state. If you're not even the majority, how are you going to have a Jewish state? So they found them in Arabia. They brought over the Arab Jews from Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, Egypt. They used different methods to persuade them to immigrate to a new land, including false flag operations and even burning synagogues. So there was bombs placed in synagogues in Baghdad by Zionist agents themselves, blamed on the Arabs or the Muslim Brotherhood to panic these Jewish people so and stampede them into the new state. There was also, sadly, stupidity on behalf of the Arabs and some mistreatment, but there's also false flag operations. There's another example, the Lavon affair in Egypt, where bombs were planted by Israeli agents in, I think, libraries, in Western targets, to be blamed on the Muslim Brotherhood, and it was Zionist agents, and it was admitted. 70 years later, the offspring of the early Zionists, Ashkenazi founders of the Zionist project, have gathered that the project didn't go according to plan. I can see that the place is doomed, and a Hebrew identity isn't exactly what their idealist forefathers had in mind. So a lot of and they've got American passports, a lot of the white European Jews that live in Israel have got double nationality. They're spending more time in Europe. They're making a life somewhere else. They are looking to escape. But the Arab Jews are left behind, and it might not be as easy for them to go back and live in Yemen, live in Syria, because of the atrocities that have gone on and the war and the state of war ever since. Do you think an Israeli or ex-Israeli will have a realistic chance of going to live in the Middle East? I hope they will. I was in Syria and in Damascus, and the boys were telling me this is Harar al-Yahud. This is the Jewish neighbourhood.
Harat al-Yahud.
But they don't live there anymore.
Yeah, they left.
But they still know, and there might be 2 or 3 left. There are these older generation of Jewish people. In Morocco, there is a community. In Yemen, there is a community. But in places like Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, it's been completely destroyed by Zionism, by the Zionist project. So I said on there, these Arab countries should offer incentives for their Arab Mizrahi Jews to come home, like Portugal has done recently, offering citizenship to the Sephardic Jews. Do you remember when Portugal put adverts out saying, if you're of a Portuguese Jewish origin, even if it was 300, 400, 500 years ago, come back and live. If Yemen could offer Jewish people of a Yemeni origin come home. That would be a real idea of coming back to where you're from. I don't know if it could ever happen. This guy said Mizrahim will never leave Israel. They occupy many prominent positions in Israeli society. Yes, but they've never had a prime minister. They've been living as second-class citizens, and second-class citizens always want to mistreat a third-class citizen because they think that it's going to empower them.